Hello, Internet. I'm Hugo.
And I'm Jake.
And this is Unpopular Culture. And today we're going to talk about the movie It.
It's spooky.
It has just become the highest grossing horror film of all time.
That makes sense.
Which is surprising to me, but it kind of makes sense.
I bet the first Saw was #1 for a while, wasn't it?
No, it never was. Isn't that surprising? No.
Saw
had a low budget.
What was the other?
The previous one, I want to say, was maybe
highest
the
grossing.
Well, now we're
The first Saw was insanely popular and justly so. Very good film. I actually just saw it not too long ago, and I really liked it.
The Exorcist was the previous.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
This wasn't better than The Exorcist,
no.
but it was a good movie. This is gonna kind of be also a free-form review of it as well. I really liked the first scene. The Georgie stuff was awesome.
Yeah.
And the tone shifted pretty hard after that. It went from absurd... Like, the horror of the Georgie scene was, we know that he's a fucking threat. Georgie, as a dumb kid, is like, well, let's have a conversation. Although you're sort of creepy. Like, he definitely has, like... But he's being tempted, like, hey, there's a circus down here. I can smell the popcorn and shit.
Yep.
And the way that it talked in that, and I forget the guy's name, but he did a really fantastic job as this...
Skarsgård.
Something Skarsgård. He did a really fantastic job of, like, this, was it extra-dimensional or...
For those of you who don't know, the backstory of it, in the book, it's explained further. There are...
and I don't know how close this movie is to that explanation, but it seems to be pretty close.
There's a cosmic turtle. And I believe we're all a dream it's having or something like that. Or the clown Pennywise is a dream it had, and the turtle is like a cosmic good force, and the clown is a cosmic bad force. It's not actually a clown, nor if you've seen the TV movie from the 80s. It isn't a spider, actually, either. It's like, Cthulhu-esque in that it's extra-dimensional and your brain cannot actually perceive it the way it actually is.
Yeah.
Which I actually appreciated as part of the performance. I don't know if this was intentional on the part of Skarsgård.
He had a hard time saying words, and like his voice would be weird.
It's
and
almost
his
as
eyes. Did you notice that there were several scenes where his eyes would like drift apart?
Right. Like
that. I thought that was great.
It's not a creepy clown. It's a extra-dimensional creature trying to imitate a clown and failing because it can't quite get the details right, and that's creepy when it hits that uncanny valley.
That was the best part of the movie, was anytime you got a slow scene where he's talking and it's just not holding together, and it was really, really interesting. And the Georgie stuff, I give this movie so much credit. Spoilers for the first scene of It, although, I mean, it's a 30-year-old movie. But they actually, instead of just straight up killing Georgie off screen or whatever, which they do, of course, because it's It, they mangle him first. They cut his fucking arm off.
Yeah.
They hurt a child in a way that they normally don't do in movies, and I genuinely appreciated that. And now I know this whole movie is basically hurting children, the movie, but
it graphically showed it.
Yeah, it was another level that they don't usually go to, and they didn't go to again.
Yeah. Stuff with the kids was not all of it was great, I guess, but most of it I thought was good. The kids were good kid actors. Obviously, the kid from Stranger Things is good. I thought he was
funny.
Great cast for that role. I believe in the original, the adult version of that was played by the guy who was the judge in Night Court. And pick any one line delivery from the kid, and he's funnier than that actor from the 80s version of it.
Yeah. I did think that the stuff, because they get out of school near the beginning of the film, I thought a lot of that was corny.
Yeah,
it didn't come across as genuine.
I don't think I'm the first person to point this out, but there was one joke that kept... Well, I think this joke could be funny in another movie. Mm-hmm. It was the only joke of its kind in the film, and that was the New Kids on the Block joke that came up like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, what was that? Because there was a really cool moment where she like shuts the door, and he doesn't want to be the chubby kid doesn't want the boys to know that he likes New Kids on the Block. It's not cool. But she shuts the door, and then there's a moment where they kind of look at each other, and then We don't know what she's looking at. And then on the behind his door, there's a poster of New Kids on the Block, and it goes in and it plays like a second of a New Kids on the Block song, it's like a beat, and that's a cool moment in a movie, but it never...
Not in this movie, though.
Yeah.
There's no other moments like that, so that's just an editing thing. They could have even had that same thing happen, where it kind of maybe have her close the door, show her reaction, pan to him, show his reaction, but you don't know what it is yet. Pan back to the door, you see the poster... Maybe zoom out, and then you can kind of see them both, and she's just kind of understandingly.
Yeah.
But with the music, it was overly.
It felt like a comedy beat and I know they were trying to be funny, but it felt like a comedy beat in a comedy movie, not one where we're worried about the kids' well-being. And at this point, they're literally about to research like its origins. It wasn't like if they would have done this during like summer break, where before anything bad happens, that could have been kind of fun. You could have had like a 15-minute sort of montage of the cool stuff they did in the summer, establish their friendships, stuff like that. That would have worked, I think, but they weren't doing that.
Sure. Also, some of the characters I felt like in this could be, again, just in service of trying to be faithful to the book, and maybe they don't get developed until the adult sections, which will be in It Chapter 2.
The Jewish kid wasn't developed at all, I think.
Mike, the kid who does the, his parents died in the fire, and he has the...
Yeah, he wasn't developed. He was the other kid. He's the black kid that's the farmer?
He has almost no development at all in the film. It feels like he's only there so they can have the air gun at the end.
There must be a director's cut where he's got some scenes, right?
Maybe, again, though, maybe it was just because, if you don't know, if anyone out there doesn't know, It is one of Stephen King's longer books.
Well, the part 2 is the adult part.
Well, no, in the book it's different. In the book it's not like that.
It jumps back and forth.
It jumps back and forth.
Right, no, I mean like part 2 of the movies.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the made-for-TV... Was that 3 parts?
No, the made-for-TV was 2 parts.
But they were like 3 hours long.
It was 3 hours long. The kids' part was better.
Yeah.
The third act has problems as far as pacing is concerned. I don't like that the girl gets kidnapped, and that's what brings them all together. I think they should have kidnapped... Again, this is probably following the book, but...
Probably kidnapped Georgie's brother.
I think they should have kidnapped the kid with the cast, who's the hypochondriac. That would have made more sense, because her character wasn't set up in a way that it felt like she would have been damsel in distress-y.
I feel like without Georgie's brother being abducted or going there alone,
and then they all have to,
because he's so driven by that. And also her thing was like she's not scared of it. That seems more like him. Yeah. And then they save him, and then he is the one that lands the final blows, which is cool. Which is not kind of how it happened, but they stumbled around. It wasn't bad. What I didn't like is anytime it moves forward towards the camera, it was like it was made for a 3D movie. He goes like, and it's not scary, it's just annoying. I hate that. I did like the dance scene, which was weird, that I liked it. I didn't think I'd like that.
That's what I'm hoping for the sequel. Less like, roar in your face.
Because I'm clearly trying to be jump scares, right?
Because I'm not afraid of clowns, so it's just... Right. A clown in my face is not scary. Even if it's screaming in my face, it's just like, whoa, dude, back the fuck off.
See, I think a better way to do the moving forward thing was, like, there's that one point where, like, he hides behind balloons, which is always cool. Yeah. The balloon scenes are neat, especially the one where it's like a big pyramid of balloons with the hypochondriac kid next to that house where before he turns into the leper. It like slowly goes up, and they kind of stay together, and it's unsettlingly smooth.
Right, that's what I want.
More creepy, because he's extra dimensional, so he kind of doesn't follow the rules, and then he kind of walks weird when he's doing that, and he kind of walks forward, and then he transforms. The walk, that's what it should be, and just have him walk normal, but it's kind of. But just speed it up so it looks like to us it's running pace. But to him, he's just trying, he doesn't have to run.
Right.
He's extra dimensional, but he doesn't understand that that's what the movements would be to get that fast. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so he would just instead of this, because they cut his head out in Photoshop and then and move it towards the camera. If you haven't seen it, it doesn't work. I don't think that works at all.
They need to focus more on creepy, weird, uncanny valley stuff and less on the boo.
See, the boo stuff doesn't work for me.
That's what I'm saying. Less boo.
See, I'm way more... my favorite scary movies, okay? Saw doesn't have any jump scares. It's just psychological, and I think it's a good twist at the end. The Babadook, all psychological creepy. They look like people, all psychological and creepy. There's no jump scares in those movies that really count. Like, the worst part of the Babadook stuff is anytime it's slow, you see it happening, and you just have to sit there and bear it because that's what they filmed. It's just nice, slow, creeping. Like, I don't want this Babadook to come after me, and they look like people. Is just like, is he crazy? Is he not crazy? And if you haven't seen it, it's on Netflix, I think, still. It's awesome. And it just has these really slow conversational scenes. And that's what I loved. Every time it had a slow scene, those were the best. But I really did like that, again, the dance scene, which is kind of weird. They did this thing where a lot of YouTubers actually do it, where you lock motion on one part of the body, and they lock motioned his head. So his head was in the center of the frame, but everything else is moving. That was unsettling, and because of the perspective they shot it at, it looked like if you were watching that in real life, it would still look like that.
Yes. And
that's why it worked, because it would be unsettlingly still in one spot, and everything else is shifting.
Yeah.
So... And then the scene when they're beating him up in the haunted house, before it gets all whooshy and he starts turning into a bunch of different shit, he's just it, and he's standing there kind of having like a conversation, but he's like, he can't hold it together, and he, like, being hurt is kind of weird. He doesn't even run away like an animal does when you get hurt. He kind of like, I'm gonna leave now, and he, like, that was really good.
Yeah.
Ugh. And then the rapey Barb stuff. That was also really creepy. All the rapey Barb stuff.
That was handled well, I thought. With her and the dad, that was handled really well.
Not just the dad, though. It turned out that, like, it kind of made her life like she's prey in a world filled with predators, because even the she seduces as like a 12-year-old girl, 13-year-old girl, the pharmacy tech guy, and that was creepy.
Oh, yeah, she's like...
And it's also creepy that she's, like, good-looking for her age, but it's not like a... You know what I mean? Like, you can tell that, like, they cast someone, like, in 8 years, she's gonna be really good-looking. So, like, you get a kid that's, like, just under that to make it extra creepy.
She looks a lot like Amy Adams, actually.
Right!
Which makes me think they're gonna cast Amy Adams in the sequel when they have adult her.
That's what I mean, but I don't think Amy Adams can pull off I used to be a rape victim.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? I'm worried about that, but they do a good job with banter at a certain point. Like, the kids sound like 80s kids after the school stuff, but so like they give each other a hard time a lot. And
you know what I appreciated? I think they adapted it better in this, though they didn't explain it very well. In the It TV movie, for instance, they used their imaginations to fight it. The kid with asthma takes his inhaler in the TV movie, sprays it in its eyes, and says, "This is battery acid, you slime." I think that's verbatim. And it acts like battery acid because it's about their belief, and their belief can harm it because it is an extra-dimensional being that feeds on fear.
I kind of like this I'm not scared of you to defeat it better.
Which is very Freddy Krueger. By the way, this director, if they redo Nightmare on Elm Street again, they should get this director. But at the end, when Georgie's brother goes to shoot Georgie because he's finally admitting to himself, "You're not real, you've died, you're dead, you're gone."
And he actually, again, now they kill Georgie on screen, which is awesome.
And
Mike, he sits there with his brain popped open.
But here's the thing, Mike goes, "It's empty, there's no more shots left in the gun," because there were no more shots left in the gun, but it works anyway because he believes it. So that's a nice, I think, nod to that, which may be from the book. I'm not sure. Again, haven't read the book, but either way, I do appreciate that. On top of that, there's some references to the fact that it looks like a giant spider. Did you notice in the final fight, for a second, it's like turns its arms into spider legs?
Yeah.
And like, that's a good little reference. There's a couple references to turtles. I don't remember exactly when, but some people have said there are references to turtles.
I feel like I remember that now, but I can't place it in my head.
Which again is reference to that cosmic turtle entity.
Mike is Georgie's brother, right?
No, Mike is the guy whose parents died in the fire.
Okay, what's the Georgie's brother's name?
I don't remember all the characters' names. Okay. I'm bad with ensemble casts.
So am I. I just remember Barb because you made a Barb joke not too long ago. But that kid's parents are fucking stupid.
Yes.
Like, don't mourn your brother, kid. Chip up.
It was like that in the TV movie too. A lot. Well, okay, Stephen King, in his books where children are the main characters, the adults tend to be terrible fucking people.
See, it makes sense because of the perspective of a child. You might think your parents are terrible, but I think it's better to show the parents being believable, and have the kid react in a way that would be kid-like.
It's also a thing, though, that the influence it has on the town involves making parents and the townspeople dismissive about the deaths and stuff of the kids. That is expressed in the book more.
That makes sense.
That's why they have such a high...
But they didn't express that here.
You're right. You got to judge it based on what's in front of you in the movie for what it is.
I don't know how close the adaptation actually is, because granted they changed a lot of stuff. So
well, they express it insofar as the room gets all bloody and the dad doesn't see it.
That might be.
I think that's the time you're supposed to get. The parents' perception is being altered.
What I think you need is one line there that's like, "Why aren't any of our parents?" Like literally talk about that and then be like, oh, they can't see it.
Then I feel like you run into a problem that the TV movie had, which is they express that way too much.
No,
I feel like it gets to a point where
I think you just need to plant the seed of the concept and let us work it out after that. But like, I hadn't considered that until now because they didn't even bring the concept up.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like, just have... They can theorize about a bunch of different stuff, and we can pick which one applies ourselves. That's fine, too, because I think if we were set in that situation as children and we started spitballing ideas, I think that not only is that a cool scene, because it's the characters that are normally the heroes not knowing what's going on, which I like, because I feel like they know too much about it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
In my opinion. I think, like, they don't even have Google... and they suddenly compile all this data.
I think it's a problem again of taking a book this big and turn it into a standard length movie.
I just think again, if you're like, well, here's some stuff that happened, and then have someone be like, oh, I heard this rumor, and then my dad said this, and you can have an amalgam of stuff, and we can suss it out as an audience following these children through the story. Like, I don't think you need to give us all the information. Give me enough to get started. Give me the beginning of the information, and then let's keep going. I don't think...
Well, that's what I think they did with the blood thing, but then again, I'm going into it knowing that already, knowing what they're inferring, so maybe...
Right, and because before that, the blood thing was Barb, and that was her fear, was her period and her womanhood, because then it means that the rapes have more consequences, stuff like that. The sexual abuse has more consequences. I mean, there was hair. It was very clear it was a puberty thing. But also the implication of her puberty in conjunction with the rapey nature of her dad. So, which by the way, that was easily the worst fear, and they didn't even need a monster for that. Yeah. The monster lived with her in real life, which I thought was way better than the Jewish kid being scared of some random painting.
I also noticed
the hypochondriac leper.
Did you notice the way the symbolism was pretty on point? Again, why I think this director would be great for Nightmare on Elm Street, because I think he gets the visual symbolism and taking fears and stuff. The way she attacks it is by shoving something down its throat. Did you notice that? That was fitting.
Yeah. And to defeat her dad, she hits him with a toilet lid, which is super symbolic.
Anyway. So, overall, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I did too. I recommend going see it.
I would as well. I don't normally say go to see a horror movie in theaters, but that's one you should definitely go see.
It's less of a horror movie and more of a fun movie with horror elements.
Yeah, it's a good coming-of-age horror film. Stand By Me with Monsters. That's what they've... It's been called that forever.
You know what I also like? We didn't discuss The Bully. I thought he was fantastic.
The thing is, I think we could have used a couple more scenes of his dad being an asshole to him. I agree.
Well, to be fair, it made him more monstrous.
I believe I did hear we're getting a director's cut of it with about 15 extra minutes. So
I would like 30 more minutes.
30?
Well, because I want the other characters, the main characters, to have more development too. I have no idea why the Jewish kid is scared of that painting, other than it's creepy.
I think that's enough. Not every character needs deep psychological harm done to them as children.
Sure. I think the more scary part of... he was going through his bar mitzvah, and it was clear that the pressure of that was what was really scaring him.
Right.
But not...
Well, the painting was just... the painting was symbolic of that. It was in the office of the guy who's disappointing.
I think we could have had like another scene with him besides just the one... Because it's that scene, and in that scene, he immediately gets attacked by the painting. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't have a setup where, oh, is that the thing? Oh, is that the thing? Like, give us some options as you establish that, and then when it happens, it's kind of creepy because Mike just walks to the door and it's on fire, and we're like, and then literally 45 minutes later, you find out why he's scared of fire. Like, why have that? Why not? Because it was a slaughterhouse too. He was scared of the sheep earlier. Why not have it just be people being slaughtered in a slaughterhouse or something?
What you got to do is probably take away the part near the end where they're all disband and then come back together because one of them gets kidnapped, and just keep them together the whole time.
Yeah.
Use the extra time to develop this stuff.
Exactly.
And you would have had an A+ movie. As it stands, I still think it's like a B+.
I was gonna say B+ is about where I put it as well.
I'll probably get it when it comes out, which is pretty high praise for me for a horror film. I don't own very many horror films.
I don't know if I'll own it, but I'll definitely watch it again. It's something where, like, 5 years from now, someone goes, "Oh, I never actually saw it." I go, "Oh, we have to watch it." You know what I'm saying? Because it's kind of...
Stephen King's having a really good... Have you seen Gerald's Game on Netflix yet?
I have not. I heard about it, and it looked... I watched the trailer for it on Netflix, and it looked really good. If you don't know what Gerald's Game is, it's an older couple, probably their late 40s, early 50s. And it's actually Captain Pike from the new Star Trek. I forget his name.
Yeah.
And some woman I've seen before. They're both fine actors. And
they both do a good job.
They go to a cabin and they try to... they're kind of like, we need time away. And they spice up their relationship, handcuffs her to the bed, you know. And he's kind of like starting to role play.
Yeah.
And then he's being creepy. She doesn't like it, so he stops. He's like, you know. And then he has a heart attack and dies on the floor. And she's in a cabin alone, strapped actual handcuffs to a bed. And it's kind of got this 127 hours feel to it, but also psychological horror, which is kind of neat.
It's really great because this. Again,
did you watch the whole thing?
I watched the whole thing. This isn't really a spoiler because it's just the premise. She goes crazy, and it's the other characters she interacts with are
her dead husband,
and a hallucination of herself, and it's sort of devil angel,
discuss,
you know, and it's like an hour and a half movie about that.
Yeah,
and more happens, but again, I'll watch the movie. It's a really good movie.
Yeah,
so I'd suggest it.
Part of the trailer is her, like there's a cup of water like up on a shelf, but she's here and she's trying to get to it. She finally gets the water, but she can't get to her head because of the length of the chain and stuff. Which I think that's I don't know. It looks like it's got a lot of good suspense, and again, it doesn't need like that's the kind of suspense that I think works in film, where it's just long, drawn out, uncomfortable suspense, not these boo. Like that can happen in the middle of one of those stretches. I think that works just fine. Because again, those movies that we talked about earlier, Babadook and stuff, they do have those moments,
right?
But they're effective because you don't know a jump scare's coming. You're just so fucking tense.
There's actually there's another Netflix adaptation of a different Stephen King story coming out too that looks really good. It's a similar in vein that it looks more suspense than it does, jump scary. It's called like 1930 something, and the premise is it's a farmer living out in the country in the 1930s with his son and his wife around. It looks like around that time.
Depression.
Really looks like that. Yeah. And the wife is like, he's abusive, and the wife is like, I'm leaving, and he murders her.
Right.
And it's the 1930s, so he just tells the cops, oh, she left, and the cops are like, okay. And then I don't know what's going to happen, but then it implies
Sounds
either...
like a Cask of Amontillado sort of...
Something, or like a Telltale Heart situation.
Telltale Heart, yeah.
Something like that looks like it's going to happen, and the son's involved, so that looked really good.
It's kind of neat.
It's kind of a golden age if you're a Stephen King fan, I guess, for adaptations. Unless you like Dark Tower. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Apparently that was bad. I didn't see it.
Yeah.
Did they run the entire Dark Tower series in one movie, by the way?
I believe what they did was it was like
Dark Tower is a good series, I'm told.
I'm told that as well, and it includes a lot of stuff. It's a totally different story from in that universe, apparently, and it sucks. Or wait, did they try and combine everything? I don't know.
It's like 6 books.
I heard it was awful, though. I heard it was just awful, and I heard they're turning it into a TV series, though, which makes more sense.
If it's like an AMC-esque TV series without the long, drawn-out, where's the child? Oh, it's in the barn, season 3.
I like the idea. From what I understand, the gunslinger is this character. He's basically a knight of the round table, but from a universe where it's like cowboys. His guns are made out of the metal of Excalibur melted down and turned into guns. Right, but he's not
even like a big part.
Well, I don't know.
As far as like, I mean, he's a big part, but he's not like the way they showed, I don't know, I didn't see the movie. The way they shot the trailers was he was the main character.
Yeah, him and a kid.
The kid's the main character.
Yeah.
And the villain, is that Kevin Bacon?
No, it's Matthew McConaughey.
Matthew McConaughey. That's the same thing. He's supposed to be like legit fucked, like total, like he's evil.
Well, I know what he's doing is he's basically kidnapping, going around the multiverse, the Stephen King multiverse, because if you don't know, the Dark Tower books are all about these different multiverse universes, and they're all connected via this tower, and they're all the different universes the different Stephen King stories take place in.
Does he get hold of the Langolier?
I don't know, but that
movie creeped me out as a kid, and now it's just corny.
Yeah, it's bad. Al from Quantum Leap, real bad in that. Anyway, he's kidnapping children from the multiverse who have the Shining because he's using their power to power something.
That have the Shining.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of kids that have the Shining.
Well, he has the Shining. The villain has the Shining. So you know what I mean?
Okay.
The psychic powers in the Stephen King universe are essentially all the Shining, if that makes sense.
From the movie / book, The Shining.
Yeah. So I don't know. I really want to see a really well-made movie where it delves into Dark Tower stuff, because I want to see like different Stephen King characters interact. And I know that's not what the Dark Tower is about, but I think it'd be fun to see like Annie from Misery meets Pennywise. What does she see Pennywise as? You know what I mean? Like
she sees Pennywise as a successful author with no problems. I don't know. I think Pennywise is probably the coolest Stephen King enemy at this point, right? Besides that guy. I can't remember his name, and it's driving me nuts right now. I cannot...
Cujo, Christine...
Cujo. Actual Jack Nicholson.
The Overlook Hotel's the villain of the...
Yeah, but...
Ooh, Pennywise versus the Overlook Hotel.
Okay, you're just getting Freddy v. Krueger.
I know. It's terrible. Tower. It's so bad. I know. I'm sorry, but anyway.
What the fuck is the Dark Tower villain's name? I'm finding it right now.
Is it like Matthew McConaughey?
The Man in Black / Walter.
I believe also he's supposed to be actually...
he has a name.
He's supposed to be a villain from one of Stephen King's actual other books. It's just in the adaptation in the movie they couldn't call him by the actual name.
Right, I'm looking at the...
rights.
I can't remember. Antagonist. Boom. No... Randall Flagg. Man in Black. Yeah, Randall Flagg. That's the name.
Okay. Well,
got it. My buddy Jim, who I played D&D with, cool guy, and he made a character on some MMO called Randall Flagg, and he would go around fucking with people.
Gotcha. So anyway, if you haven't seen it yet, I would highly recommend it, especially if you're a fan of the book or the TV movie. I think it's a really good...
Well, shit, we talked about it for how long have we done this?
Almost half an hour.
Yeah, so I mean, like, obviously we're fans of it, so go ahead. You should listen to us. We should run your life.
So anyway, until next time, I'm Hugo.
And I'm your greatest fears. That's probably actually true.
This has been Unpopular Call.